So with that, I'd like to hand over to Billy from Red Sift, who will be talking about everything to do with DKIM and all those kind of things. So yeah, looking forward to hearing exactly what Billy's got to say about that, especially now with a lot of phishing and all those kind of things that are happening in the market. So with that, I'll hand over directly to Billy.
Thanks, Paul, and good to see everyone. Great to see so many people engaged and thinking about this topic. You would think that with email being old and the protocols being old, that this would be a problem that might have gone away by now, but business email compromise, social engineering attacks over email are still a huge problem. And we're going to talk about one of the main ways that you can actually defend your organization, defend your customers against threats that actually are hitting the inbox every single day. A bit about me. Billy McDiarmid, I run our customer engineering team here at Red Sift. Red Sift is a global security organization that specializes in helping organizations like yours to protect their digital assets. I'm talking about domains, I'm talking about subdomains, I'm talking about certificates, I'm talking about IP addresses, and I'm an advocate for good security from the foundation up. You can have all the software in the world, you can all have all the hardware in the world, but if you're not taking the right steps to protect your public DNS records and your email and web services that depend on those public DNS services, then you're still going to let these type of attacks actually come in. We're a global organization. We work with a really diverse range of customers. I'm based up in Scotland. I'm just outside Glasgow. We're headquartered in London, and we've got people globally. We work with so many of the biggest brands, but we're really proud to say that actually of our customer base is small and medium-sized businesses as well. We exist to create a fundamentally safer internet, and as I said, over 1,200 teams support us. So let's talk about, first of all, business email compromise, and then we'll go on and we'll talk about DMARC and why it's actually a protection against that type of attack. By business email compromise, I'm talking about any type of cyber attack that actually comes in to email infrastructure. I'm talking about emails that get into your inbox or your customers' inbox that are social engineering attacks, that are about getting information from the recipient of the email in order to further another type of attack, about getting someone to actually click on a link on an inbox, or really importantly, a type of attack that's a exact impersonation attack, okay, where someone, a bad actor, is actually trying to impersonate your brand and send email as you, because the reality is, because of the way that DNS works and because of the way that DNS operates, is that anyone can send an email, okay, as any domain name. What you need is the protections around it to make sure that the internet knows not to actually deliver that email. So we will be talking today about DMARC, we will be talking about SPF, we will be talking about DKIM and how those all come together to make sure that if a bad actor sends an email from your domain, that actually the internet knows not to actually authorize that send and not to deliver it in an inbox. The reason why this is so critical is because the damage is incredibly real from business email compromise. $2.8 billion was lost in business email compromise attacks in 2024. 74% of spoofing attacks actually bypass email gateways, whether those are software or hardware gateways. they completely bypass them altogether because they happen at a DNS level. So they happen before they even hit the gateway, okay? And DMARC is so effective, okay, as a way of stopping these types of attacks. DMARC will reduce the amount of unauthenticated email, i.e. email being sent from sources that shouldn't be sending as your domain, by 65%. Okay, it's huge. And it's also, if you work with customers that have got Google email addresses, okay, or Yahoo email addresses, or Microsoft email addresses, or Apple email addresses, okay, DMARC is now effectively mandated. If you or your customers are sending out email, okay, to people with those type of email addresses, and you are not using authentication backed up by DMARC, then the emails are likely going into quarantine, so they're being junked, or they're not being delivered at all. That's how important, okay, the internet industry believes that DMARC, SPF, and DKIM actually is. It's now effectively mandated. It's the foundation, okay, of your phishing defense. Gartner this year have come out and said, look, if you are not using DMARC, it's a foundational protocol. If you're not using it in your estate, you may as well not do anything else. Your SEG can be circumvented, okay? Your security training may as well not actually happen, okay? Because someone can send email out as your domain name if you're not using DMARC. They can just completely circumvent it, and everything else will go out the window. So I'm throwing a lot of acronyms about here, DMARC, SPF, and DKIM, but actually let's break it down into basics and say, how does it actually work? The too long didn't read is DMARC is a protocol to make sure that only the people that are supposed to send as you can actually send email as you, okay? I'm talking about your domain name or your subdomains. You might have multiple domain names. You might have multiple subdomains, okay? It's a way of making sure that only the sending services, so things like your marketing tools, things like your finance tools, okay? Things like even your printers, okay? Your HR systems, any supply systems that you use. It makes sure that all those that are legitimate places that should be sending out email as your domain are actually allowed to send it out. What it means is the people that aren't allowed to send it out, which is typically bad actors, but can also be misconfigured sending sources, i.e. that aren't using protocols correctly. It makes sure if those are trying to send out email from your domain or subdomain, that the email will either go to junk or it will go to quarantine. Okay, so you can think about SPF and DKIM, okay, as two different protocols. SPF verifies that email is from the authorized sender, and DKIM verifies that email is coming from a verified domain or an authorized domain. And DMARC is the wrapper around both of those. Because what happens with DMARC is it's a check. So if SPF isn't configured correctly, i.e. the sender is trying to send without SPF or misconfigured SPF, or if DKIM is misconfigured, i.e. it's trying to send out email without DKIM or misconfigured DKIM, then what DMARC does is it tells the internet, it tells the receiving email server what to actually do with that email. So if SPF isn't used, DMARC will tell the receiving server to either junk the message, send it to quarantine, or reject it, which is your position of strength. Ideally here, we want to get into a position where you are using reject. Okay, some people will use quarantine instead, although quarantine is often used as an intermediary step to getting to reject, and that means that quarantine means that the email would go to junk, okay, instead. So if we think about a real life example, let's say that your marketing team, okay, someone within your organization wants to use a new marketing automation platform. Let's say they want to use MailChimp, or they want to use something similar to that. Any marketing automation platform will need to have either DKIM or SPF configured properly alongside your domain to make sure that it's allowed to send out email. Okay, if SPF or DKIM isn't configured, okay, then it shouldn't be able to send out email as your domain, and DMARC will make sure that if it does try to send out email, then the email will be rejected by the receiving email server or will be put into junk. Similarly, another real case is if you're using DMARC and a bad actor tries to send out without SPF or without DKIM, then the email will be quarantined and will be rejected. Okay. So you're probably sitting thinking, going, Billy, this is a no-brainer. So adoption should be through the roof. So why are we still talking about this? And sometimes I ask myself that question every single day. But the reality is, because email service providers have only just recently mandated DMARC, okay, that the internet and the organizations that deliver email services on it are still in catch-up mode, okay? Good news is, it's changing, okay? The market is evolving, and more people are actually deploying DMARC, which is fantastic, because, as I've said, it's a foundational email technology. It should actually be getting used by any organization that's sending out email. As of December 2025, 13.1 million parent domain names did have DMARC deployed. That's the good news. The bad news is that actually there's still a large number of those domains and those organizations using those domains that aren't really fully benefiting from what DMARC actually is. So you can see here, we've got a figure, okay, roughly kind of just shy of 8 million. And that's the number of domains that have DMARC at none, okay? Now that's a policy setting. And that means that if someone tries to send out email and they don't have SPF or DKIM, okay, they try and send it out as the organization's domain with a policy of none, it means the email's still going to get delivered. So you may as well not have it, okay? It's like putting the lock on your door, but actually not turning the key over behind you. You know, you may as well not do it. But in the land of email, there's a legitimate reason why people are doing this. It's because they're actually frightened of the protocol. They're actually frightened that if they go to quarantine or reject too quickly, that legitimate email will get rejected or will get to junk. So people kind of stay in limbo because they've set it up and they go, I don't really know what to do next. How do I know that my legitimate sending sources, those marketing sources, those finance sources, how do we know that they're actually configured correctly? Okay, so it's fairly understandable. And to be honest, most of those domains that aren't using DMARC properly, where they've got that policy in on, they're doing it because they've tried to do it themselves. Being honest, DMARC is an open protocol. It's not proprietary. It's an internet standard. It's an RFC. So anyone can go into their domain and just go, yeah, DMARC none. Oh yeah, I've deployed DMARC properly. Yay, I won a medal. You actually don't win a medal because you're not using it properly. Really, to do this properly and to ensure that you've got the visibility of all your sending sources, and that's the way that you make progress. That's how you get from a policy of none to a policy of quarantine to a policy of reject. You need to be working with a vendor that gives you visibility of all the sending sources and of all the configuration of those sending sources. And so this is the reason why progress, although adoption is evolving, progress isn't at the level that we'd like it to actually be. And again, like I said, these, when you explain the policies, you can kind of understand why. It's very, you know, it's very clear and direct. You know, none, quarantine, and reject. So people are frightened of quarantine. People are frightened of reject. At the end of the day, your business will rely on email. Your business relies on email getting delivered. Email is never going away, despite what people have been saying for the past 20 years. It will not be replaced by any type of messaging. So you need to make sure that your emails are getting to your customers, or getting to your staff, or getting to your supply chain. Okay, so you should be doing DMARC properly, but you should be doing it with care to make sure that your email delivery isn't affected. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about some adoption across the sectors, just to see what this actually looks like in the real world. Okay, and I'm just going to share a different screen for a moment. If I can go. And I could just show you two dashboards. Okay. And hopefully, Paul, I'm getting a message here saying something about picture in picture, but can you actually see this dashboard okay? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it fine. Yep. Yep.
Okay, super. So what you can see here is I've actually got two dashboards. Okay. Now, one dashboard is looking at the UK retail sector. I've looked at the top 100 retailers in the UK. Given recent events in the past 2 years and the number of retailers that have been targeted, the amount of money that's in the retail sector, the amount of money that you and I spend in these retailers every week. I know I go to these stores far too often. You would hope that they would be using all of the protocols that are available, okay, to protect our data and to protect their staff, okay? But you can actually see here, if I go to, first of all, actually the overview window, we score the market on a maturity level grading from 0 to 5, where 5 is the panacea. That's where you're using DMARC correctly, but also using other protocols like MTSTS, which I saw someone mention in the chat. So bonus points for the person that mentioned that, good job. But also a protocol called BIMI. Okay, so if you're using DMARC properly, if you're using MTSTS properly, and if you're using BIMI properly, we give you 5 out of 5. Okay, that's where you absolutely should be. But it's really disappointing. The average maturity level of the top 100 retailers in the UK is 2.5. Now, a 3 would be they're using DMARC properly. So across the sector, there's too many organizations that are not actually using even DMARC properly, okay? Only 64 have actually got a DMARC policy of reject. It's really disappointing, okay? Really, really disappointing, okay? And if we look at what that distribution actually looks like, it's a slightly more even terrifying picture, because there's 6 organizations that aren't using DMARC at all. Okay, there's 10 who have got a policy of none. Okay, so they're not even, they haven't even started their journey. Okay, through. There are 2 that are using BIMI, which is a really great protection. It will show logos in customers' inboxes. And there's a real mesh of vendors that are being used for DMARC, but a lot of the market is still trying to do this themselves. And that goes back to what I said. People don't make progress because they're trying to solve this themselves, or they end up working with the wrong vendor, okay? And you can see there, I'm really pleased that actually we are one of the top vendors in the top 100 retailers. We really punch above our weight here. We take on Proofpoint, okay, really well. Considering the size of that organization, we hold up really, really well.
So Billy, can I just ask a few questions on that?
Go for it, Paul.
So basically, if a retail isn't doing the things that you have mentioned around rejecting, effectively they could be email, or somebody could be emailing customers with potential phishing emails to direct them to, you know, give me your Marks and Spencer's password, or give me your, you know, whatever it is, and consumers would fall for that because the emails are just getting delivered straight through because the process isn't being dropped.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
fine. So because it's not foundational, because they're not using that foundational approach, they're not building up. Everything that the email, even if they've got the best gateways in the world, even if they've got the best staff training, a bad actor can send out an email as their domain and it will get to the inbox because they're not using DMARC properly.
And the BIMI standard, is that still requiring a logo that's been approved and gone through a legal process to say that that's a trademarked approved logo, or can you now get away with just having a logo that's on an official website and it just links through and it all works? What are the technical and legal and cost implications of BIMI?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So the what's required has dropped a little bit, which is really, really good news. Previously for BIMI, you had to have a trademark. You no longer need to have a trademark. You can just evidence that you've been using the logo on your website for 12 months. Okay, so that's really good news. So as long as you've been using that logo and can say, yep, I have been using it, this is my company, then you will be able to apply for and use BIMI. Now, BIMI, you can only use BIMI if you're at quarantine or reject with DMARC. That's the first thing. The second thing is there still is a little bit of a cost issue now, and that's to do with the fact that BIMI, in order to validate, requires a certificate. Okay, and the cost is quite high because the market it's not as commoditized right now as what TLS certificates are. You know, you can buy TLS certificates from anyone. BIMI, you can only buy it from a small number of vendors. And so the price is staying quite high, and that's typically in the low thousands for one of those certificates. So that is the cost, and that's stopping adoption of BIMI climbing massively. My expectation is that we're seeing, because we're now seeing more and more vendors, so like Sectigo and Global Sign are entering the BIMI market, there will be a bit of competition created and prices will reduce. And I'm hoping they'll start to reduce towards the end of this year as competition is introduced. Okay. Now, if I compare retail to the charity sector, you'd think to yourself, and it's a smaller number of domains I've looked at here, but you'd think, oh, the charity sector, oh, maybe they're less mature because they've got less money. But actually, the reality is that 75% of the top charities in the UK that I looked at are at enforcement or using quarantine or using reject, compared to 72% in the retail sector. So the charities are thinking about this in the right way. They need to protect their estate. They need to stop people sending out as their domains. Now, they're not using some things. They're not using BIMI, but then not much of the retail sector is actually using it either. So across the board, we're sitting in a position where, you know, barely 2/3 to 3/4 of the top retail and charity sectors are using it. And simply put, again, if we look at the distribution side of things, just too many retailers and too many charity organizations are trying to do this on their own instead of working with a vendor like Red Sift and our own DMARC product. Okay, you cannot do this on your own. It is not expensive, guys, to actually do this. There's simply no excuse, okay, for organizations and retail or charity to be sitting in a position where they're not using DMARC, or they're not using DMARC actually correctly, because the costs are actually fairly small.
Sorry, Billy. What's the reason why in the retail sector MTA, STS is not being implemented? Because that's very doable and fairly cheap to get implemented and gives you that extra level of point-to-point security.
Yeah, it's a really good question actually, and it tends to be because there's a ton of moving parts. So you need three things. You need the DNS records, you need a policy file location, and you need a certificate, okay, for MTSTS. And you need somewhere for the reports to actually go and for TLS RPT to be interpreted. So people tend to, and we talk to a lot of organizations across lots of sectors who go, there's actually not a ton of benefit. The amount of benefit to them isn't worth the hassle of setting up, new parts of their attack surface and having to maintain, for example, somewhere where a policy file has to live, or somewhere that they have to consume the reports. Now, it is recommended by NCSC. It's mandated for public sector organizations. It's highly recommended for CNI, for critical national infrastructure, and it's starting to come downstream to other organization types as well. So I'd really hope that adoption will increase. And we actually have got a higher than average adoption rate within our customers because we have got MTSTS and TLS RPT included in our platform at no additional cost. It's included in all of our plans. And every part of MTSTS that you need is included. Okay, so we will generate the DNS records that you need. We will create the certificate that you need. We will interpret the reports for you, and we will give you the policy file location. Okay, so it's all wrapped up and it's very simple to actually deploy. We take care of it all for you as part of the platform. So if I start to tie this up, I've been talking a lot about maturity, okay? And this is why I talk about maturity, because I don't want to get hung up on reject, right? Because reject absolutely is a goal, okay, but it's not the be all and end all, okay, of things. There is a, I spoke about the level 1 to level 5 maturity level, okay, and this is because once you get to reject, there's still more work you can do to fully protect your email at a DNS level, okay? But it is steps, okay? It is a journey. And there are, easy things that you can do. You don't have to do everything at once. You can do one thing at a time. So the first thing to do is, if you're not using DMARC at the moment, if you don't have it configured, is to put reporting in place, is to add a reporting email address into your DNS. That's really simple. It's a 2-minute job to do on DMARC, okay? We give you the reporting address. We start sending the reports to you, okay? It starts working within a matter of hours, and having a policy of none does not change anything about the way that your emails are sent or the way that your emails are received by email servers. Really simple step. Once you're reporting to us, we get visibility. So we can see all of those different sending sources and whether they're configured correctly. So are they using SPF correctly? And are they using DKIM correctly? So that visibility is essential. And then once you've got the results from that, you can make sure that all the sending sources do get configured correctly. Now, actually, an important part of that is it will also give you visibility of bad actors that are trying to impersonate your domain name. We will be able to show you where the threats are actually coming from. We'll also be able to tell you about shadow IT, sending services that you may have actually forgotten about. So there's a ton, this isn't just about getting to DMARC, there's a ton of security telemetry that comes with that. Now, as you start to understand what should be sending email and what shouldn't be sending email, you can start to move towards enforcement. So you can start to move towards quarantine and start to move towards reject. And then once you've moved to quarantine and moved to reject, then you can start to think about protocols like BIMI and MTSTS. as I've spoken about. So you can do this one step at a time. And if you do it one step at a time, you can start to think about other ways of protecting. Okay, so there are other attack types that we won't go into today, but there's things like domain name and subdomain takeovers. Those actually bypass DMARC completely. In fact, actually, one of the faults of DMARC is it can actually allow these attacks to happen. Okay, so there's other things to do. And then the next step, and Paul, maybe this is a topic for our next session, we can start to talk about what lookalike attack, actual domain name variation attacks. So where someone is registering domain names that might look like your domain but aren't actually you, that can also lead to business email compromise. Proof is in the pudding. We work with a number of UK leading charities, leading retailers, financial services, insurance. We're multi-sector. We've worked with Holland and Barrett for a long time. Okay, we allow Holland and Barrett complete visibility. It means that they can work with their stakeholders, with their marketing teams, with their finance teams, with their HR teams, with their payroll teams, to make sure that the legitimate email senders are able to send, okay, but the bad actors, the emails that they're trying to send will not reach the inbox as well. Okay, so have we got time for a demo, Paul? I'll run through just a quick how people can get started.
Yep, absolutely. I think that would be super beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So let me just fix my screen sharing. And hopefully,
if anyone's got any questions in the meantime, just post them in the chat. I'm just currently monitoring the chat. Generally, well, in the majority, just Kim having a bit of a chat. Quite a lot of suggestions and good advice coming from Kim there, so I appreciate that. But if you do have any questions, then just post them on there, and I'll make sure that we get them covered at the end.
So this is the on DMARC by Red Sift dashboard. This is a place where most of our customers will actually log in when they are set up with this, because once they're moving towards enforcement, quarantine, and reject, it gives them total visibility of what's going on across their estate, how many emails are being sent, how many emails are passing DMARC, how many emails are passing SPF, and how many are passing DKIM. So straight away, using red, amber, green, our customers are able to see what's working, what isn't, and what action needs to be taken. But I mentioned earlier, it's really simple to get started. So let's focus on that today. Let's say I was registering a new domain name. By the way, these are all my cats. So I've got 4 cats, and I've got a domain name for each of my cats: Molly, Clyro, Biffy, and Missy. If we get any music fans in the room, they'll know why I've named my cats Biffy and Clyro, my two youngest cats. But let's say I decided to get a 5th cat, okay, and I registered a domain name, and I wanted to set that up on my on DMARC account. Okay, it's really simple. And by the way, I've got no idea what I would call a 5th cat at all. So if anyone has any suggestions for what I would call my 5th cat, then do let me know. But let's say I was going to call, let's say it was called Sarah, because my wife's called Sarah, so I would never actually call my 5th cat Sarah. But let's say I registered a domain name sarah.scott, okay, and I wanted to get that set up. Okay, so I click next, and the first thing that on DMARC does is it checks the existing configuration of that domain name. Okay, so is there any SPF or DMARC or MTSTS and TLS RPT? Okay, there, then it would tell us. Now, one of the beautiful things actually about on DMARC is that we've got a tool called Dynamic Services. How many people here have made mistakes when they've been updating their DNS records? Made typos? Okay, I've been doing it for 20 years. I still make mistakes in my DNS records. I hate logging into my registrar and making those changes. It's finicky. I'm fat-fingered. My keyboard's too small. Obviously, that's the main problem. Nothing to do with my lack of care or attention. We all make mistakes. So, Ash, you're right. It's always DKIM, 100%. Okay. So, actually, what on DMARC has with dynamic services is, instead of you having to make these changes within your DNS records all the time, you just make 2 changes to your DNS records, and then you never have to make any changes again. You will make any future changes within on DMARC instead. Okay, so what that means is you'll go in and make any changes to SPF, to DKIM, you're delegating to us, it'll be made from within here. So it protects, okay, against those mistakes. There's error handling built in to stop the common mistakes from happening. And one other benefit as well, there is actually a lookup limit with SPF. It's better than ValiMail, I promise. ValiMail use macros, so macros aren't quite as robust. Okay, email servers don't like macros, so there is a bit of an issue there. So, but when it comes to SPF, there is a lookup limit. There's a lookup limit of 10. Okay, so that restricts the number of services that you can typically use unless you use a hosted SPF system like ours. Okay, we will help you stay under the SPF lookup limit if you do have lots of different sending services as well. Okay, so if I wanted to use dynamic services, let's say I do, I click on next, and I promise you there would just be 2 DNS records to update. You've got your DMARC record and you've got your SPF record. And that's it. You put those changes, okay, into your DNS. And then within a matter of hours, you will be reporting to on DMARC. Okay. If I go to the DMARC reports, okay, this is what it looks like when you start to see the reports coming through. At a glance, you're able to see what emails are passing, okay, and what emails are failing and the reason why they're actually failing. At a glance, you're able to see all the different sending sources that are sending out from your domain. It will surprise you in most cases what is actually trying to send out email from your domain. Okay, even if something's trying to send out from a domain and it's not, we can't resolve the IP address back to a host name, we will show you the IP address and we'll even help you identify what the IP address is, because we've got AI technology built into the platform that will actually ask questions of that IP address to help you understand what it is and where it's located. Okay, so we're giving you total visibility. What's well configured, what's not well configured, basically what needs action. What are the legitimate sending sources? What are the illegitimate sending sources? And then, and only then, once you've got that visibility, can you start the journey towards compliance. Okay. So that's how easy it is to get started with us. Matter of hours. You'll start to get visibility and you can start to see and understand what is trying to send out email on your behalf. You'll know what configuration changes need to be made. Our help articles, our support team are here to give you advice on anything that you're not sure about. Lots and lots of different support so that you get to that stage that I showed you on the dashboard where you can see what email has been sent out, what is passing DMARC, and you can give yourself assurance that you're doing all you can to protect your domain estate by using those foundational technologies. So thank you very much for your time today. It's been absolutely brilliant. Have we got any questions, Paul, that I can answer?
I'm just looking in the chat. Let me
Must
just...
be babbling in the chat.
Yeah, Kim, do you have any questions you want to raise? You just unmute yourself.
Yeah, like I said, you can do a screen test. Like I said, just if you, depending on the size of your organization, of course. If it's a small organization, you can just go straight ahead, just block everything, and then fix it afterwards. Quarantine is the least. None is sort of cowardly. So just to do it. Don't wait. Don't put up a plan for 6 months or whatever. Put it up. Make sure you got proper, at least some correctness in the SPF, and enable DKIM, and then set up DMARC and go to quarantine. You need to get some reactions for this. Just putting it in none it takes too long.
Yeah, I think absolutely for some organizations who have visibility and maybe have a bit of confidence in terms of what's going out, you know, that can be an approach. For me, and you know, whether you pay for it through us or pay for it elsewhere or use one of the more basic free parsing tools that are out there, I think there is an argument for just taking it easy at the beginning. Okay, you know, I'm not talking about taking 6 months. Our average time to enforcement is under 6 weeks for organizations. So our customers do move very, very quickly. So for me, the benefits of taking a slow, you know, a little bit more of a cautious approach are better, just to make sure that there's no emails that do end up being rejected or at quarantine because of everything. And it's easy. I mean, it's, you know, you're not going straight into mode. You can go to none, you can start consuming the reports, and then take it from there.
I mean, when we first started talking, obviously we've built in a light version of the on DMARC solution into one of our products, Patronum, and we did that because I was surprised at the lack of coverage within the Google ecosystem. Google recommend and they force you down this particular route, but they don't make any recommendations. They don't ask you, you know, they don't show you how to set it up specifically. It's just a case of you need to get it set up. And in order to get it set up, you need to put your reports somewhere. Now, if you don't have a solution like Red Sift, those reports are going to have to get delivered to an email address. And so that's a receipt for every single email that your organization sends. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but we're sending tens of thousands of emails. I imagine Kim and the universities over there, they're sending millions of emails, probably on a daily basis. So to get those receipts and manage it yourself is just, it's just a non-starter. So you either look at, as Billy and Kim mentioned, one of those free services where you can just get a weekly or a monthly report, but that just tells you how good or how bad you are performing. It doesn't then allow you to investigate and drill into, well, who is forwarding my emails or who is spoofing our site and all those kind of things. So if you're using Google Workspace, and I assume everybody on this call is in that camp, otherwise what are you doing here? Then yeah, you absolutely need to be looking at DMARC. And we, as a vendor of the Patronum product, we can see, because we're looking at this kind of stuff, all the customers and at what levels they are at on their particular journey. And I, for the longest time, just had I just had quarantine set up. And it was only until diving into the platform itself or the standards itself that you realize that quarantine just means that email is going into the spam. It still means that someone's going to read the email potentially. And so there's a danger of those phishing emails or those kind of attacks to still get through. And so I would seriously recommend that you know, you start looking at these kind of solutions if you're on Workspace. And I then got completely obsessed and set up MTA STS and looking at BIMI. I then got hit by the roadblock, which was, it's going to cost me £3,000 in the UK to get a registered certificate for the images. So I thought, I'm not that bothered about that particular standard at the moment.
Are you talking about BIMI?
About BIMI, yeah. BIMI's
BIMI's marketing
standard.
bullshit.
It is. And I don't like the fact that it removes or it replaces the person image on the emails as well.
That's just the way Google chose to implement it. Others have done it differently.
Yeah. So it's also, as a Google customer, it just seems to be not a great solution at the moment. I imagine it's going to evolve as more and more organizations start to get to that top end. But that's my.
I don't see BIMI going
impression.
anywhere. Sorry to say.
Go
on. I'm sorry.
There is one as well. One thing, if you're unsure of how well or otherwise you are configured, and you're kind of curious, and like I said, you've got that education piece. So some people in the chat who are admitting, yeah, they've looked at this, they've done it, or it's complicated, or maybe they're just starting their journey. Then there's tons of. I'd be ignorant if I didn't mention all the resources that we do have on our website, and you start from Radar Lite. This is our free tool for actually analyzing your domain security. Okay, so you just simply go in and say email check on redsift.com. Okay, and we use a number of different methods and a number of different checks. We've got this gives you access to the tools that our enterprise customers are using. So our government customers, our American technology customers, they all have this tooling. They all buy this tooling from us. That allows us to invest in R&D to make these checks available to you free of charge. So this is a really good place to get started. Have a look at your configuration. It'll also look at your other web configuration parts as well, your TLS configuration, your DNS configuration, okay, and a number of other data points as well. Okay, so this is a really good place to get started. But also on the Red Sift website, there's a ton of resources, other resources as well. There's a ton of other free tools. So if you care about certificate security, it's one of my specialisms, and then we've got a free certificate management, certificate monitoring tool. But the resources section really is superb in terms of giving you guides about everything that we're talking about today. Okay, you've got guides to debugging DMARC. Okay, you've got guides to BIMI. Okay, and what the best certificate is for you. We've touched on that today. You've got an honest appraisal of all the different vendors for DKIM and SPF management that are out there. So we spend a lot of time transferring our knowledge from the brains of my wonderful consulting team, who are incredibly smart and clever people. Transfer that knowledge from their heads into paper, into tools to give you benefits. Okay, so lots of great reading, lots of great things there for you to take a look at. Okay. There's also interactive tools. We've got a tool called Public Investigate. So Kim's made a great point. Learn DMARC is a competitor site. It's run by one of our competition, but Learn DMARC is really good, particularly in terms of helping you to understand DKIM. But we've got interactive tools like our Investigate tool that allows you to send in actually an email to us, and we'll tell you what next steps you need to do to make your domain compliant with DMARC as well.
And so, thank you. You saw my LinkedIn. I was like, I thought you guys had something, so I didn't want to step on your toes. So.
It's all good.
Excellent.
Super.
So anybody got any further questions, comments? If not, then we can, thank Billy. Oh, Chuck, I'll let you jump in.
Sorry about that. I was just trying to do a thumbs up and I saw the hand. No question. My bad.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No problem. So I appreciate Billy. Thank you very much for and there goes the thumbs up. Thank you very much to Billy for the session once again. And I did catch that Billy offered to do another session later on in the year around a little bit more deep dive into the security. So we'll follow up on that, Billy, if that's okay.
Yeah, we can look at maybe we can look at the lookalike side, because that's something that's actually the attacks are coming in fast and strong, and we've got a solution called Brand Trust that's great for that. So I'd be delighted to talk about that later.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And so, as I mentioned, next month we've got Kevin. I think Kevin, you've been chipping in with a few comments there. Kevin's going to be talking about Google Workspace security. Is that right, Kevin?
I think so. Yeah, it's going to be I'm going to try and make it interesting. I've got a blog I've been working on that's the top 25-ish Google Workspace security recommendations. I've also gotten back into online dating, which was a complete morass about 4 years ago. So I'll touch base for a minute or two on some of the fun of the scams in online dating, just to make you guys laugh a little bit. I can't remember. There was something else I told Molly that I'd cover. Give me a minute, I'll look it up. But yeah, it should be fun. I mean, the nice part about any of my content, any of my prezos, is that they're created in a vacuum. I don't go out to Google and say what are the top 25x or anything like that. So it should be a lot of fun, and hopefully give you guys some different points of view that are good. So
awesome.
And I'm looking right now to see. I could have sworn there was a third topic I was going to mention for a few seconds. eSpin should be in it. Community speech. Nope, I already did that one. Can't find it at the moment. I'll have to.
Not to worry. We'll follow up, and we'll make sure that it's well communicated and get as many people participating as possible. I think the last session that you did was phenomenal. So yeah, looking forward to that. And
I can't believe I remembered it.
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot it. I'm also going to, just for a minute or two, I'll show you guys something I'm working on called GeoAnalyzer Pro, that talks about the emergence of GEO replacing SEO, or some people know it as AIEO or AEO, EIEIO, whatever. Yep. So, yeah.
That's that good old song. So with that, yeah, again, thank you, Billy, and thank you everybody else for making time to join us today. Yeah, take care, and we'll see you on the next session next month.